Hi, my name is Caitlin, and I'm a Vital graduate. What inspired me to join the program was that I wanted to see a multidisciplinary approach to have the broadest perspective on these emerging therapies and therapeutic modalities. So I personally wanted to see how new psychedelic therapies would be implemented across various contexts. So from the traditional retreat models all the way to medical clinical settings and even at-home therapies. So it was important to me to have this broad perspective. After I completed the 12-month program, I went on to build a biotech company in the psychedelic space, and we're focused on addressing the root causes of people's chronic pain and inflammation. The most rewarding part has been putting people together to solve problems. And I personally really like high impact work. And so, being able to chip away at solving the problem around alleviating human suffering is really a core driver for me. Being a part of Vital it came at a pivotal point in my own lifelong healing journey, and it connected me with some of the most amazing healers in the space, relationships that I'm really forever grateful for. So if you're interested in getting involved in the psychedelic world and making a meaningful shift in your own life, visit vitalpsychedelictraining.com for more information and to join the next cohort.
Are you working in psychedelics or taking steps to get involved? Lately, we've been thinking about the future of this field, the people who are going to work with psychedelics, and how they're going to show up. So we decided to ask them. Here's what we heard from people in a new survey who are working in psychedelics right now or preparing to launch their careers. 87.6% have been influenced by their own positive experiences with psychedelics. While 47% are incorporating psychedelics into an existing career, 31.6% are switching careers entirely. And not surprisingly, making money is not the goal. A staggering 98.3% of respondents indicate that making a lot of money is not their primary motivation to enter the field. If you're curious to learn more about this growing space and perhaps find your place in it, we're inviting you to download our new 24-page report, The Emerging Psychedelic Workforce. It's packed with insights on the field you won't find anywhere else, and it's completely free. You can find it in the articles section of our website at psychedelicstoday.com/article titled The Emerging Psychedelic Workforce.
Hello and welcome to this Vital Psychedelic Conversations. My name is Johanna and I'm your host today, and I have the immense pleasure to have with me Justin LaPree and Angie Leek, both visionaries in the psychedelic space, and we're very fortunate to have both Justin and Angie in our Vital community, Angie as one of our instructors and Justin who did the first round of Vital. So today we have some plans to talk about what is going on in the veteran space, talking about the essential pieces in the psychedelic resurgence, and the most important factors for preparation and integration. And I just wanted to say massive thank you for both Angie and Justin for joining me today. I really have such tremendous respect for you both and for the work that you do in the space. And we're just very, very fortunate to have you here today, but also to just have you here on this planet to do what you do on the day-to-day basis. And I really look forward to get to know you more during this upcoming hour. So let's start with you, Justin. So for those of you who don't know, Justin LaPree is the founder of Heroic Path to Light, an organization that works to heal veterans from trauma with the use of psychedelics. And Justin has lived an incredibly interesting life and has come to a point where his impact is really helping so many veterans, and he's doing such meaningful work. So I'm going to just let you do your introduction, Justin. We're yeah. Feel free to take your time with it, and I would be very curious to hear sort of the main points that kind of brought you to this position that where you're in now, where you seem to be like very aligned with your particular vision.
No, thank you so much, Johanna, and thank you, Psychedelics Today, for having me. Angie, it is an honor to be on this podcast with you as well. Thank you for all the listeners for holding space for us today. So a little bit about me. Grew up in a broken home, house of abuse in Katy, Texas, and went to private school most of my life and joined the Marine Corps in 2001. I was really looking for family, really looking for purpose at this point in my life. 9/11 happened, and then we went to war. I deployed in 2003 and 2004, and came home with a traumatic brain injury, with PTS, anxiety, depression, substance abuse, the normal veteran narrative that we see all too many men and women come home with. And I went into the VA system. I was on 13 medications. I was misdiagnosed. I was, kept stair-stepping in terms of dosage, misdosed. And I really had a hard time dealing with coming home. That's when the war really started for me. I wasn't supposed to come home. Most of us aren't, right? We're supposed to die overseas. And that's why the system is really struggling to catch up, because the advancements of our life-saving technology is keeping more people alive. And so more people are returning home to where they would have died in previous wars. And that's really something to really think about, as to why we have so many veterans, anywhere from 22 to 44 a day, taking their own life. And why is that happening? Well, in 2005, I got out. I moved up to New York City. I got hooked on a prescription pill from the VA, Oxycontin, and I wound up homeless. I was homeless for a year, lived on the streets begging for hope for 6 months, and then I moved into a halfway house in Long Island. Got on my feet. An angel by the name of Bob Cheeseman met me, gave me an opportunity to interview at an investment bank called Citigroup. Never thought that I'd go in finance ever, but I did. And I worked extremely hard for Bob for the next 4 years, and then moved over to a broker-dealer, Brownstone Investment Group, and that's where I ended my career in finance. During that time, I was masking my traumas with pharmaceuticals, with alcohol, with different recreational substances, because I just didn't want to feel. I definitely didn't have purpose. I definitely didn't have family. So in 2013, I decided to pack up, move back to Texas, and apply to become a firefighter with the city of Austin. And that's what I did. In 2015, I applied, got into the program in 2017, and that's when I got out of the fire academy for the city of Austin. And it gave me that purpose again. It gave me that team. I was part of a unit. I was serving the community, but it came at a cost. I had never really addressed the traumas from war. I had never addressed the traumas of my childhood. And I thought I was okay. We hear this a lot in these communities. I'm okay. I'm better than the guy or the girl next to me. I'm doing all right. And we don't talk about it. We're always told to suppress, don't feel. And I thought that I was desensitized. I thought that I was wired for this type of work. And I was wrong. I was working at some of the busiest stations in the city. I was running upwards of 20 calls a day. And some really traumatic experiences happened. We had a mass bomber. We had mass shootings. It was it was difficult for me because for the first time I was dealing with innocent lives dying, instead of people that were trying to kill me and my friends. So it was a little bit different impact on me. Well, I started going through a divorce in 2018, and I started to spiral. I carried my service weapon under my steering wheel in my truck. And on Veterans Day of 2018, a couple months after my divorce was filed, I walked out there about midnight and I put the gun in my mouth and I pulled the trigger. And that gun, it clicked. And I opened up my eyes and I was still there. I had so much anxiety built up about getting to that point that I had vomited over on my lap. I just started to cry and I was screaming inside of the walls of that truck. And I took out the magazine. It was empty. The chamber was empty. And so somebody on my fire crew had seen me spiral because I was a hot mess at this point in my life, and unloaded the weapon in fear that I would try to take my own life. The gift of second chances is powerful. And I'm so grateful for that second chance, because now my daughter gets to have her dad walk her down the aisle. My son Leo gets to learn baseball, and look at the work that I'm doing now. It's really incredible to see how an instant that for me was a point of trying to find peace through death. I didn't want to leave my children. I just didn't want to feel the pain anymore. I didn't want to hurt anymore. And that was the only solution that I had, because nothing else was working. The doctors, the therapists, the pills, the booze, the women, the toxic relationships. It was all me trying to get back to me, and nothing worked. And so that's a little bit about my past. And then we can get more into what I'm doing now later on in the show.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I just had goosebumps all over. It's the kind of the intensity of your path is clearly shown in the way in which your vision is so clear now, and it's really quite remarkable. So thank you.
Thank you.
So Angie has been our instructor since the very start of Vital, and it's been really amazing to also see you grow really into this mentorship role. You are a therapist, somatic experiencing specialist, and you specialize in marriage and family therapy, but you're also a clinical supervisor, and I understand that this is more and more of the role that you're taking on, providing mentorship and guiding others in this space. So feel free to go from here.
Yeah, thank you. What an honor to be here. I'm a long-time listener and supporter of Psychedelics Today. It's been wonderful teaching with Vital and seeing that program reach so many students. And anyway, just so happy to be here. First time on the podcast. And Justin, I'm excited to get to know you. Just hearing your story, it really touches me deeply, and I can see why perhaps they paired us, actually. I resonate a lot with what you shared and the struggle of being a wounded healer, and how our struggles and our pain really often propel us. How do we deal with this, and how do we be when things hurt? So I resonate with that. Let's see. My path, I started when I was a teenager, and somebody offered me some LSD, and I took it. And I didn't know anything about it or what I was getting into. Luckily, I had a great experience, and continued to bump into it from time to time in my younger years, and almost always had sort of positive and somewhat spiritual experiences. And I also had some trauma in childhood. I had a friend die who's killed by a drunk driver, and a lot of trouble with coping with that and making sense of that. And that came up a lot for me, just unresolved. And then in my 20s, I had some depressive symptoms that I finally said, let me get some help with this. So I got put on SSRIs and then felt a little better. And then they upped my dose when I didn't feel better enough. And then I was on a lot, and then I wasn't sleeping. And that bumped up against a time where I was also doing a lot of, I had some spiritual awakening. I was studying philosophy and Eastern religion. I was starting to meditate. And between those two things, I ended up having what I now know to be called a spiritual emergency. It was an awakening and an emerging of trauma, of repressed content, and it was also fueled by, probably in part, this high dose SSRI, which we now know can be activating or stimulating. And unfortunately, at the time, I was hospitalized and was treated as psychosis, which indeed some of the symptoms absolutely presented that way. Anyway, that was really difficult. It felt like a very powerful healing experience for me. Grief was coming up, and anyway, it felt healing. It also was very chaotic and disorganized and scary. And then being hospitalized like that and having it just suppressed, I came out of that and I said that there's got to be a different way of making sense of this. It just didn't make sense how they treated it, and it felt like it really interrupted the healing part of that process. So I came out of that and eventually learned about the work of Stan Groff and discovered this other framework for seeing that as this sort of healing crisis. And that led me to go to school at CIIS in California, where he had been an adjunct professor. And my first semester there, I took an elective in spiritual emergency, and I met a wonderful psychiatrist who helped me get off of the psych meds and also do various different types of therapy. So I started with some psychodynamic depth psychotherapy. I did some psychosynthesis and reclaimed some of my higher states of consciousness that I was terrified of. Did a lot of different body work, got back into yoga and meditation, got back into my body, and continued my healing journey. So from that, I had no idea that psychedelics could be part of the mix. This was back in the early 2000s, but continuing to learn about transpersonal psychology and these holistic and alternative ways of working and really cleaning up the psyche and healing, not just treating and suppressing and managing symptoms. So, became a therapist, and fast forward to let's say about 2014, I heard about MAPS and their trials, and I applied to be a therapist in their phase 3 trials. They said, well, Arkansas is not on our radar for a trial site, but go ahead and get ready because it'll be legal eventually, or expanded access will come. So they said, in the meantime, take all the trauma trainings you can. So I started taking all the trauma trainings I could. And so I've done EMDR, brain spotting, somatic experiencing. Anyway, I eventually got to do my training with MAPS, and I love doing training. So I just keep collecting trainings and integrating it into my offerings. And now I'm really moving into continuing to learn the work by working with my clients and helping people move through their process, and then sharing what I've learned and helping teach what I've learned. There's a lot more, and we'll get into more as we go, but that's sort of the the arc of how I got to where I am here today. So I'm super excited to unpack all this with you some more and see where we go with this.
Thank you, Angie. And I also had no idea that you also have such a story leading you up to your healing profession, which obviously is not that hard to imagine. But thank you for your openness and um, the kind of what you already brought in, the concept of the wounded healer, which is also something that we see a lot in Vital, and we're changing our curriculum slightly this year towards we want to have more portions of inner work, because we realize that this is also what people really come for. People really need to find ways to heal themselves as they are in the process of healing, and it's really truly only by realizing our own wounds that we actually can help others. I think this is something that you both would probably agree with. So I want to ask you both a couple of questions about Vital, and then we can move on to talk about some other things. So Justin, let's start with you. Your Vital journey started in 2022, and it's already been quite a while. And I was curious to know, what was your original intention when you joined the training, and what were your main goals back then, and how has your vision changed or evolved when you come to this moment in time?
No, I appreciate that question. So psychedelics were the catalyst in saving my life, and we can go more into what that looks like later, or what exactly happened to me. But I didn't know what to do with this experience, and I didn't have anybody to talk to. I didn't feel safe at the fire station yet talking about it. That would change a lot, but at the time I didn't have a community. And I was at a fundraiser in Houston that we were raising money for the Psychedelic Research Center at Del Med at UT. And a gentleman at my table told me about Vital, and I looked it up on my phone. I'm like, oh my God, it closes today. Like there's like, I'm like, seriously? Because this is exactly what I needed. I needed that community, and I needed to build a framework of education. I didn't go to school for this. I had all of my anecdotal evidence. I had all of my brain scans. I had all my stories, and I had read book after book on this topic. But I really wanted to learn as much as I could about this space and really how to navigate the space of psychedelics and healing ourselves. And so I wrote a really long email to David. I laid it all out. I'm like, this is me, right? And I would love to be a part of this program if you can extend a spot to me. And I got accepted into the program, and you guys helped me with a percentage off due to my veteran status. So I'm super grateful for that, because it's so important as veterans and first responders heal themselves that they're going to realize that maybe being a firefighter or a cop doesn't serve them anymore, and they want to help their brothers and sisters return to themselves, but they need a community, and they need education to learn how to do that, because it is a big career change. And so I really enjoyed Vital. It was, some of my staff now for our sanctuary is from Vital. I've met people in my cohort around the country at different conferences. We do meetup. It's outstanding, right? It's exactly what we needed. Healing happens in community, right? And it was really nice to be able to be in such a diverse group with researchers and doctors and therapists and just average Joes like me, to where my life experiences were helping others that were highly trained in this space, and their life experiences and what they've learned was helping me in this space. So it was all of us working together for the greater good of healing humanity, healing ourselves. It was a fantastic course. I'm one of your biggest cheerleaders. I've sent a few people from we've had some of our alumni that I've treated through our program now join this upcoming Vital group. And that's what it's about. It's just about getting back out there, getting in the community, learning as much as we can to help our fellow brothers and sisters that are in need, at the same time healing ourselves. So it's been a great experience. Oh, but yes, your second question. How did it change my vision? It didn't change my vision at all. I had already started my sanctuary. Didn't we hadn't run our first program yet, but I was in the inception stage of Heroic Path to Light. It just ignited it, right? It's like it just fueled the fire within me to really give me a great foundation, some really strong fundamentals to really build out a therapeutic model within a spiritual setting. So
Beautiful. And I think the community piece that you speak of, and the sort of deeper healing that can happen within groups is, although, you know, we're obviously limited by how much in-person time we can do, but I've personally been continually surprised by how it also works online, and people really do connect very deeply. And when you then meet those people in real time, it's like the connection is there. It's just encountering one another on 3D form. So yeah, I think it's a little bit tricky to do a program that is both intellectual and academically rigorous, while also allowing people to explore these deeper aspects of themselves. I think it's kind of it's an experiment per se, but it's something that we really try to advocate for. So for you, Angie, so you have been with us since the beginning. I would be curious to know kind of like how this experience of being an instructor for Vital has impacted you and your profession, and how you show up as a mentor and as a therapist, and how has it shaped your understanding of your own role in the psychedelic resurgence?
Great question. Yeah, little backstory. Yeah, I've listened to the podcast probably since the beginning, and we've talked about community, and we'll talk more about community building in our own local communities. But I always shared the podcast as a great resource for learning about psychedelics. So through the years, just hearing the podcast, this interview, that interview, getting to hear all the different experts in the field and Kyle and Joe interviewing them, was a huge part of my foundational learning about psychedelics. And so then to hear, hey, we have this vision to grow in these ways. We're building this program. It's like, wow, that's a big reach. That's going to reach so many more people. And so then when they asked me to be part of it, of course, it's an honor to be considered for that. I wasn't sure what it was going to be like, and I have a great teaching partner, Mike Sapiro, leading our cohort. What it's done for me personally and professionally, my role, it's helped me solidify my confidence that that all the things that I've learned are coming together in a knowledge base, in a skill set, in a way that I feel like I'm able to help people learn and integrate what they're learning. So the way the study groups work, so every week there's a webinar. So an expert from the field presents on their research or their expertise, and there's time for Q&A. So we get this wonderful deep dive with somebody's expertise and a great Q&A. And then for our study groups, we have a time to connect as a community, as a cohort, as a peer group, and then process the information, integrate the information, digest it. So if they have further questions, or hey, it touches on their personal process, and so we talk about that. So it's been wonderful to hold the space for people's learning and for people to integrate their learning. And then for me personally, it's really helped me integrate that that I know what I'm talking about, and or I know what I don't know, but um, it's instilled more confidence. It's my highlight of my week by far, this 90 minutes for our study group. I miss it when we're on break. We form really deep connections. And like you, Justin, when we're at conferences, we meet up, or driving through cross country, hey, let's meet up in town if you're passing through for lunch or whatnot. So it's really formed some deep, deep connections.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's amazing to see people's process through the 1 year arc, by the end of the year when people present their final projects. And often it's like a vision of, here's what I would like to offer in the world, either when this becomes legal or in a way that I can offer it now, or however. It's amazing to see what they've come up with. And often I'm like, great, I'll refer people. Tell me, give me your business card or your website or whatever, so it's really neat to see how, all these people are going to go out into the world with these offerings, and to know that they have some solid wisdom to back it up. This isn't my information. This is stuff I've collected or I've learned about from people that have gone before me. But it's important information to pass along. And so much of this has been in the underground for all these years because of the prohibition. So the ability to acquire this wisdom and knowledge and skill set is sparse. That's one of our backlogs, we're going to have as this work comes into the mainstream. So like Justin, he didn't go to school for this, and I don't know that he needs to. But acquiring learning and being supported in that and having that happen in a community container, I couldn't have designed it better. It's a really good program. And I think I could go on and on, but I've really enjoyed it. So.
Thank you both so much for your kind words. It really means the world to us. We are still new, as we're starting our third cohort now, and sometimes it feels like a really heavy responsibility to try to even envision something like this, because psychedelics are so complicated and all encompassing, and they transform lives so fundamentally. So it's like, how can you even begin to teach? And I guess the solution is really just to have this collaborative approach and to bring in so many different kinds of experts so that people can really find what resonates with them. So next, I was hoping to kind of, since you're both from personally but also professionally specialists in trauma and healing of very deep trauma, so I wanted to ask you first, why do we need these specialized places? For instance, the community that you have built, Justin, for veterans, and why do we need these communities for people who have experienced very severe trauma, and how can we aid this healing with psychedelics? So in terms of like when it comes to healing or treating the so-called kind of standard population that doesn't have such deep trauma, how does that stand apart from people like veterans?
I don't know if it does stand apart. I think us as a species are desiring connection. I have a strong belief, these molecules, these medicines are nature. And if you can keep them in a natural setting, surrounded by community, how we used to commune with these medicines thousands and thousands of years ago, and some people around the world still commune with them this way. That's their natural habitat. And when I look at the landscape of veterans, first responders, Gold Star widows, whom are members of our sanctuary, they need community more than ever. they need to be able to lean in to the individual cohorts. You know, we have 10 people that go through a program at a time. And that shared experience of the psychedelic experience, properly supported with preparation and integration, is their new tribe, right? What was working for them up to that point saved their life, right? It got them there. It was, their body was just in survival, but it didn't serve them anymore. So by able to lean into 9 other people, which for the most part are complete strangers, they've all walked a mile in each other's shoes. Regardless, trauma, regardless of the vehicle on how it was instilled in my body, it's still trauma, right? And my body reacts the same to it. So even if somebody doesn't have, we hear a lot of like trauma comparing in this space. Well, I don't have the same trauma that you have, or I didn't see what you saw. Man, it doesn't matter, right? We still need a place to where we can feel vulnerable. We still need a place to where we can feel safe. And I think that's really what, Angie and other practitioners and people that are in on the spiritual side, sharing your individual stories and coming into this space from doing your own work and being a human, just like the person that's sitting on the couch in front of you or laying down on the bed in front of you. It makes this a very human experience. It kind of separates it from the doctor-patient type of mentality that we have really been engulfed with Western medicine. And it doesn't feel too personal, when you go and see your doctor, right? I don't have a great rapport with my doctor. I don't really have trust in there. Like, you look at about all the trauma that I've experienced going through the VA system, right? I don't really feel safe. So I think coming into the group setting, regardless if you're a veteran or first responder, or if you're a civilian with just trauma of life, you coming together with small groups of people. Sebastian Junger wrote a great book called Tribe, if you've never read it. That's really getting back to the roots. It's getting back to the basics of civilizations. And there's just so much to be said there about coming together to support each other. So, I do believe that certain individuals are going to have to start in a one-on-one setting. Certain individuals are going to need to start in the clinic. In hopes, my hope would be that they can then start to work with these medicines in small group settings, because you need accountability buddies in life. You need somebody to freaking celebrate your wins and celebrate your losses, right? And we cannot do this alone. I am the first to say that I have failed many times because I didn't have a support system. I didn't have community. And the organization I built, I really built it for me. I truly built it for me because I needed it. I couldn't find it. And by doing that, I built it for everybody. And so it's been really powerful for me to, because I too have less than great days. I don't believe in bad days anymore. But I have less than great days. And I can be very vulnerable, and I can feel like I need some support. And I'm so blessed to know that just a phone call away, just a short bike ride away, I have people in my community that are waiting for me to come over so that they can hold space for me and that they can help me through this difficult part of my life. And for me, I sleep very well at night knowing that. and knowing that other people in our community have that as well. So
Beautifully said, Justin. I resonate with a lot of that.
thank you.
And the building what you needed for you, and it's for everybody. And now you have that. Yeah, that's great work.
Thank you, Angie.
I'll echo. Let's see, Johanna, your question was about trauma and different types or different.
Well, it was sort of like, do people with sort of such substantial trauma, like trauma of war, need like a sort of special way of healing in comparison to people who have the sort of small t trauma, as we say. But also maybe just to add to that for you, also since you work with so many different types of lenses, sort of like what has most informed your practice when it comes to this sort of very deep trauma work, and what kind of tools do you use in your practice?
Yeah, great. Well, what's most informed my work is also my process. And as I've moved through it, I have some index trauma that I've already mentioned, my friend's death. I have intergenerational trauma that I knew a little bit about, but really unpacked during some psychedelic work, especially with ketamine, with suicide 4 generations ago. And then the downstream effect of that, which in my family was we don't talk about it. In fact, we don't even know that it happened one of the generations. And then there's wounds of omission, wounds of commission. I can say what that means more. Wounds where something happened to you that shouldn't have, like an abuse or a trauma, or wounds of omission where you didn't get the support you need. And I think I also have some of that. Like, I wasn't really supported around my friend's death because all the adults were also grieving it. And anyway, there's lots of different types of trauma, big, little. I think what we have in common as humans, yes, we all want community, connection, and also looking at our developmental needs. What's in the way of that? If we have developmental needs like basic safety is not met, then it's hard to open up. So what's in the way of connection? What's in the way of community? Someone with sexual abuse, especially in an incest situation, won't feel safe with others or in their own bodies. And so their protection, being hypervigilant, that, serves protection, it also interferes with that I want to connect. So learning how to respond to different people's needs, how to provide a sense of basic safety. I'm not going to abandon you, but I'm also not going to intrude on you. Learning how to track where the ruptures happen. Yeah. And again, for me, it was discovering my own, what's in the way of this connection that I'm longing for? Why is it hard to open up? Why do I go mute or freeze when something really intense happens? Oh, now I understand where that comes from, how that's lodged in my nervous system or in my body. And it's taken support, it's taken courage, it's taken community to be able to say these things out loud. And then when I say them out loud, then I can get the support that I need, and then I can go even deeper and keep going, So yeah, somatic experiencing has helped a lot with the learning of how to track the really subtle changes that happen in the nervous system, so we can see. I used to override all the time, like, oh, I'm fine, I can keep going. And there's a time and a place for that, but there's also ways that can mask. Like, actually, I'm sitting inside completely petrified, so being able to track the subtle cues of the changes in the physiology and what to do with it, how to help that resolve. If we have fight or flight trapped, we need it to be expressed. And it can be overwhelming if we have too much too fast. So there's a lot of really nuanced skills that I acquired in doing the somatic experiencing training. And then more recently, I'm leaning into IFS and learning about
Mm.
exiles and protector parts and self, and this ability to really do this inner healing work. Sometimes really support is needed externally, but ultimately we can be our own primary protectors of our parts. So yeah, I hope that answers some of that, and we can unpack any of that some more as we go.
And
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious. Just thinking how many practitioners are out there. I think of, doctors, I think of therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists who have the answers on how to help others, but don't know how to help themselves. You see so many people in these fields, they struggle with addiction, with suppression, um, and with suicide. And it seems like they would have all the keys on how to figure that out. So yeah, it's tough in all fields, right? There's trauma in all fields. So yeah, that's amazing, amazing story.
Yeah, thank you, Angie. And I'm really interested to learn more about, especially somatic experience in the nervous system regulation. And maybe from that we can go into this topic of preparation, since you both, yeah, we've already covered the kind of populations that you work with. And as we all know, psychedelic experiences are quite unpredictable in the sense that there's really no way to know what will come up for the person. And Vital is also very focused on harm reduction for this very
Mm-hmm.
reason. So I was just curious to know, how do you, when you are preparing for a group experience or for an individual experience, what are the most important pillars of safety and protocol that you always follow to ensure that everything goes as well as it can?
You want me to start?
Please.
So I speak of safety as risk management, because I can't promise somebody's safety, but I can manage risk. Um, so our preparation period, and this goes after a intensive medical intake from our medical staff. But it starts 8 weeks prior to them coming into ceremony. Um, Man, I wish I could work with them for a year, but I have to cut the program off at some point, right? I truly wish that people could, you know, do do months and months of preparation, maybe do a breathwork retreat, just to really help regulate the nervous system before going to work with psychedelics. But we do offer 8 weeks of preparation. We have a psychologist and a trauma therapist that they have one-on-one calls with. And then there's weeks 2 through 7 are group calls with our integration specialist. And during these group calls, we invite subject matter experts to speak on different modalities that they teach, that they're going to be taught. We already started getting them into microdosing. Most of the population in our arena is tapering off of pharmaceuticals at the same time. And I'm really trying to get them tapered off from when they get accepted into the program. We start to taper them off. We deliver microdoses to their door, and so they're starting to work with the medicine on a very low dose, on a microdose. But it's really beneficial with helping them wean off of years, sometimes decades of pharmaceutical use, especially SSRIs and benzos. And then we start to introduce different modalities to them: meditation, gratitude practice, breath work. We have a psycho-spiritual approach, really trying to bring in the science of what's happening in our bodies and how we can get into altered states of consciousness without taking the pill or without taking the thing, and really start to empower them to realize that they're their own healer, that we are an ancient technology that can heal ourselves, so that they don't feel like they have to come to us for help and to heal themselves. So we start to really introduce them during this preparation phase, and then they of course have these group calls, and they share with each other. And really what's happening over this 8 weeks is like this glue is starting to harden, and this group is coming together. They're supporting each other. Now, I will say one thing that we do at Heroic Path to Light is during this 8-week preparation phase, we offer the families their own cohort for 4 weeks, and they get a 4-week prep and a 4-week integration, because we cannot forget about the people holding space at home, right? Like for a lot of families out there, they're forgotten about. And I'm really trying to heal the entire family unit. And listen, our members are our greatest teachers. I've learned so much from these people that show up. I mean, it's like the courage it takes to even get to the retreat is incredible. And it was after my second retreat, because I wasn't a military spouse. I wasn't a fireman spouse. I had no idea about this. I had no idea about the family unit, right? I went through my healing when I was going through a divorce, so I didn't have a family at home. And so we had a member that had a very challenging experience. He got in a fight with his wife when she dropped him off about this, right? She was definitely not supportive. And she knew nothing about what we were doing. And I'm like, oh my God, team. I was like, come in. All right. So we need to support the family at home. They need to meet everybody on the team. We need to, I usually have Greg Fonzo from the research center at Dell come on and speak. Let's introduce them. Let's tell them exactly what this is, what we're going to do, the compounds they're going to be sitting with, and have them, bring them along this journey with their loved ones so that they feel safe and that they have their own community with these 9 other spouses, these 9 other family members. And so that's kind of what we do in a nutshell for preparation, because I cannot really tell you that preparation or integration are either greater or lesser important than each other. I really do believe they're just as important. And we can really think of this as pre-experience integration and then post-experience integration. And so both are needed for a very successful outcome of the psychedelic experience.
Well said, Justin. I'm so glad to hear how much you work with families. I think that's maybe a little bit rare in this work and much needed. I love the work of Adele LaFrance. She does a lot of work with talking about including the family. So
I'll have to write that down.
I'll touch on that briefly as well. But and I also like how you say, I think you said integration. There's integration before and there's integration after. So integration really begins in preparation, in my opinion. And I work with ketamine in my private practice, but and I started to launch a clinic for ketamine, and then I didn't. And one of the reasons I didn't is, for now at least, I just wanted to offer it to my existing clients, where I have this ongoing therapy relationship, and now we're bringing in ketamine as a tool, but that we have this basic foundational relationship already established. And I know their nervous system, I know their trauma history, I know their resources and things. So it's, that's where I chose to start. I may expand eventually, but for now, having that time to really be with somebody's process before going in is a real beautiful thing. I like also how you say safety well, my word, safety is relative. We can't guarantee somebody's safety or even feeling safe, but we can provide harm reduction and support. My preparation framework includes being curious about their intention and what's coming up for them, why they're wanting to do this. And there's so much, so many people are like, oh my gosh, I saw this on 60 Minutes and I want to cure, and it's like, that's not how this is going to work. I mean, it might, it can, and more than likely, it's like it's going to stir up a bunch of shit, and you need to digest it, and that might be hard, or what if it, so it's really helping them frame their expectations and know that, this might be really, really healing in the long run and really terrifying in the short run, or uncomfortable. Or I like the term nonlinear healing. And I see this even with ketamine, which has, such a great track record for helping depression and PTSD. People's symptoms often look worse in the short run, and then look better. And so helping them be prepared for that. And then how are we going to deal with that if that happens? What is your support system, or what are your resources, or how do you regulate your nervous system? And then also to have an explanation of what I'm going to call shadow work. And I don't mean specifically Jungian, but just the process of the unconscious becoming conscious and learning how to work with what we've exiled to the unconscious when it comes up. And it's like, ooh, I don't like that part about myself, or ooh, I can't tolerate that range of emotion, or whatever it might be. And then helping them. It may be we need to slow things down, and okay, let's do more integration before we go again. And then I love the again, the emphasis on families. And as a marriage and family therapist, I'm trained to see systems. So, and then I saw this in my personal process as well. So many people that started doing psychedelics that I was working with either ended up divorced or having big breakups with friendships. It's like when systems change, or when somebody in the system change, the system craves homeostasis. It's like, no, we don't want to, we liked how it was before.
Well said.
We don't like this change. And so either the relationship goes through this transformation that may be rocky, or it breaks, and so that's a good thing to know going in. It's actually sort of informed consent. It's good to know your life might blow up after this in ways that you can't even imagine. And for me, again, uncovering that suicide in my family, and it was destabilizing for me, in a way that I did not see coming. I couldn't have. Luckily, I have good support and know, okay, this is keep going. This is going to be hard, and the way through is through. So I spend a lot of time really trying to sort of teach or explain some of these systems that I've learned, again, from studying Groff's work, or I've worked with teachers that are breathwork trained, and so they have the framework that Groff taught them that I've also studied. And so all of that helps support just understanding what this process might look like. And so then when we move into actually the other side of it, they have support for their process and the understanding of sort of the map of the territory.
Well, amazing, both of you. That's just such thorough and rich answers. I look forward to re-listening, actually, just to really absorb everything that was just said. So we are coming towards the tail end of the conversation. And
No.
I know Angie has a hard stop. So I did want to ask you, Justin, because you also run an entheogenic church, or you're co-founder. I'm sorry if I got this wrong.
Founder. That's correct.
Founder, yes.
Yeah,
Founder.
that's correct. Yep.
Pardon. Just when people are coming in for a treatment and, for a specific kind of modality, obviously it's very structured, but how do people who come to your church, how do you sort of mediate this being there for people, and when the community is more responsible for providing the support, how do you ensure that people get enough support for their experiences? And also, how does this sort of outlook for those people who are coming to a church for sacramental purposes differs from that who are seeking healing?
Good questions. So in terms of, let me just make sure I have the question right. So in terms of number of support for people, make sure they're fully supported coming through.
Yes, because I imagine this is a volunteer-run project, right? And it's non-profit.
Negative.
Oh,
negative. Oh. So yeah, so I pay everybody. I mean, we do have a couple volunteers that I really like. I mean, this is for a lot of people, even in the psychedelic space. This is the experiential work. I mean, we're a multi-sacrament church, so we use different medicines in different programs. And so as these start to come online in the States and on the federal side, it's going to take a lot of time, right? And a lot of money to do so. So we're able to be working with these medicines now. So in terms of support, so we have 10 individuals that come through at a time, and then paid staff on site is anywhere from 15 to 16 people. And then we'll have a couple volunteers as well. It's a requirement for any integration specialist that's going to have a touch point with a participant, with a member, that they are there during their retreat. It is a requirement. I really like these bonds to start being formed. They've already seen each other for 2 months online, and then, I don't want them to, I really want the entire community to be there for this shared experience of healing. I mean, it's just as healing, if not more healing for me, to be able to facilitate these containers and be there with the individuals. That's why me as the founder and president is at every retreat, because this is the medicine that I need without even taking the medicine. This is my medicine of community. And so we make sure that everybody is properly supported. I have built out a therapeutic model inside of a sanctuary. So we have nurses on staff, we have integration specialists, we have facilitators, we have sacred medicine guides. Again, hitting on risk management, we have managed the risk extremely well to be able to do this with a high level of efficacy and success. And so, what was the second part of your question?
I was just curious to hear, since it is an entheogenic church,
right,
and obviously what is implied that there's this certain kind of
healing,
faith-seeking versus potentially healing. And I mean, I don't know if perhaps most people who come to your church come more for sort of personal healing, and I think the two are also very intertwined. But since it is titled as a church, and as a legal institute, it stands as a church. I was just curious to hear about the sort of folks who come to your church with the means of kind of more sacramental and I guess not recreational, but sort of religious purposes.
Intentional. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great question. I believe therapy happens in many ways, and I believe healing happens in many ways. And me riding my motorcycle is therapy in itself. For me, going to work with a horse is therapy in itself. For me, diving into the ocean or doing a cold plunge is therapy itself. So that's exactly what's happening here, guys. I mean, it's we have spiritual therapy, there's religious therapy, there's healing happening of all sorts. I'm not just the members of our organization. It's not a requirement for you to have deep-rooted traumas for you to come commune with these medicines. These compounds are phenomenal at carving out in your psyche and your subconscious these like deeply rooted traumas. I mean, to this point, I say that to say this: I've been doing work on myself since 2018 with psychedelics. it took until this past year, 2023, for me to have the awareness that I was molested as a 5-year-old.
Mm.
What? I was so blown away. I was like, is this like is there something actually to this, or am I just having this vision? And I called my mom and I'm like, hey, she knows what I do. I said, I just want you to answer me a question. Did this ever happen to me? And at what year? And she's like, it did. It happened to you at 5 years old. And I truly believe that the medicine was waiting for me to have a solid framework, a solid support system for me to unpack this, to where, showing it to me on my first mushroom journey back in 2018, I probably wasn't ready to receive this information. And so healing happens even for those that aren't there to technically heal. I believe that even learning more about themselves and who they truly are, and being able to have better connection with others, with other humans, which sprinkles into their family life, that alone is healing. So, I believe that even if you're coming to commune with a sacrament, there's an intention behind that. Like, why are you here? What are you looking to get out of this? To Angie, your point, exactly what you said about intention. Like, this isn't us, taking the thing and holding hands in a forest and singing and dancing, which there's nothing wrong with that, right? If that's your intention. But what we're doing is on a very deeper level of healing the psyche, of really exploring who we are as humans, what our purpose is, what are we doing here? And at the same time, we're going to be digging up these old, deep-rooted wounds of abandonment, of omission, right? Of physical trauma, of sexual trauma, stuff that we weren't even, it wasn't even in our conscious mind. And that's why I have such a big support staff, is because we need to make sure that if and when these feelings expose themselves, if these traumas expose themselves, that these people feel safe to feel. Because we are so good at not feeling, right? The most toxic legal suppressant on the market is alcohol, right? We don't feel. So I really want people to be able to feel safe to where they can feel all the emotions. If you want to scream, scream. If you want to cry, cry. If you want to yell, yell. If you want to give somebody a hug, there's going to be somebody there to hug you. So I really do believe that even, I try to explain to people not to have expectations. That's why I don't share my own stories with people. It's kind of hard with podcasts now, but but I invite my staff to not share about their own personal experiences too much, right? Until they've gone through the program. But once you go through the program, you can come back and work with these medicines again. Hey, start really building this relationship with these ancient medicines, with this ancient wisdom. Keep on if you want, because a lot of this is just another layer of the onion. It took me 5 years to get to the deep root of my trauma. And because I had so much preparation and integration and going through the Vital course and really building out a solid foundation, that didn't shock my world. It actually helped me to explain why I am certain ways, why I have safety issues in my life, why I have trust issues, right? And now it all makes sense. Now it's not like me looking at myself like I'm screwed up, right? I was born this way. No, there was an event in my life that changed the projection of the rest of my life until I was able to work through it. So
thank you so much.
Hope that answered the questions. Yes.
Yes, it certainly did. And I really wish we had more time to go a little bit deeper into this sort of the conjunction between recreational and spiritual and therapeutic, and whether there really is any any distinction at all. But as we are coming to the end of the conversation, the final question that I wanted to ask you both, and also feel free to add any sort of final takeaways that you would like to end this conversation with, is that you're both leaders within your own community. You're helping so many people to heal, and you're really, as from my perspective, it seems that you're on this mission. Like you're both embodying this visionary qualities. So what does it feel like to be in that sort of leadership role for you? And how do you take care of yourself while also, as you just mentioned, Justin, the continual process of things unfolding within yourself is also ever present. So yeah, whoever wants to start, go ahead.
I'll start. About maybe 13 years ago, I was living in California and then moved to Arkansas. So really big cultural change. And one of the things Justin said earlier was how he built what he needed, and I got here and I was like, who are the psychedelic people, or who are the transpersonal people? Nobody even heard what's transpersonal, anyway. So I had to build it. And it's not my first choice to be on the front lines. This is a newly reemerging, whatever I was gonna say, industry, the medicine coming back into our culture, especially in some parts of the country where I feel like I'm on the front plow edge, so hitting the resistance and the what, you can't talk about psychedelics, that's and how important it is, and how real and true it is. And so drawing from my knowing of how important this is, it's given me the courage to take the risk. And I want people to have access to this. It's important, and it's healing. And this paradigm shift of integrating psychedelic healing tools, people need to know about it. So I started a nonprofit foundation to help raise funds to support access for people wanting to receive the medicine and for therapists who want to be trained. And then also part of our mission is to just raise awareness about this. So I've been giving public talks. The first time I spoke in public, I was terrified. And then it was so well received. And all these people came out and said, so glad you're talking about this. Tell me more. I helped start the Psychedelic Society here. And awesome. Then just wanting to support other therapists learning about this so we can have more people that can skillfully, safely help other people heal. It's important. It's been scary. And I'm beginning to find my footing and confidently sharing the good news. So, yeah, thanks again for all that you do and all that Psychedelics Today has done to promote this knowing as well. So.
Thank you so much, Angie. I applaud you on your work and your mission. Look forward to becoming longtime friends. So, yeah, yeah, I got to a point to where if it's not we, then who, right? It's like, who are we waiting for? And I realized that I was waiting on me. I was waiting on me to heal myself. I always looked for doctors to heal me. It ended up being me. I've lost 15 friends to suicide since 2005, either from the fire service, friends of mine in the civilian population, or through my military time. There's so many friends and so many families destroyed. And I knew that I was taking a big risk here. And that's why I've been so meticulous in my programming. And I'm also an open door. Like if somebody wants to come look inside and see under the hood, please do. Because I'm really trying to remove stigmas and change narratives on how we treat mental health in this country. My fear of getting in trouble, doing what I'm doing, is not more important than somebody's life. And we are losing people in droves daily. And I am going to continue to do what I do above ground to make sure that people have access to these medicines in a container where risk is managed and support is provided and community is provided. I'm excited to announce that starting in January, we're going to be opening up Illuminated Hearts, which is our civilian branch. It's our sister sanctuary, to where we're going to be able to provide these types of programs to the civilian population as well. This really is needed by everybody. This needs to be accessible in this country. It's our birthright to use these in this country. I believe it to be a travesty that people have to leave this country, the country that they serve, that they live in, the communities that they serve, to find healing. We're dismantling the war on drugs currently, all of us. And it's really starting to show me that it's working because of what's happening in DC and what's happening on the state level. People know what I'm doing. And I'm treating active duty law enforcement and active duty first responders and active duty military. People understand that we are in a broken mental health system. People don't want to die. And people know that nothing else is working. So people are coming to me in pure desperation. Their fear is out of the window. They're just trying to stay alive. And being able to provide that for somebody, and the the individual who unloaded my weapon, who I still don't know who that is today. I don't know if they'll ever come forward, but what a great gift. Because it allowed me to work with these medicines, change my mind on if I wanted to live or die, and gave me the space to work through my own traumas and get reignited with this purpose of being able to serve others while also serving myself. So for me, it's the most purposeful thing I've ever done. And I've done a lot of really cool things in my life. But for the first time, I've been able to give the gift of a second chance for people. And for me, there's nothing cooler than that. So I'll leave y'all with that.
My heart is very full. Thank you both so much. Angie, did you still want to add something before we close here?
Yeah, I think, Justin, it's been wonderful hearing your story and hearing how your personal process has informed your work. And sounds like you've certainly created a life worth living. And I'm surprised our paths haven't crossed sooner, but it looks like we will. So many overlaps.
Amazing.
And things going on. So it's been great to connect with you. Johanna, I would love to mention the Holos Foundation with, we are also, that's the foundation that raises funds to help support therapist training. We're also the fiscal sponsors for Psychedelics Today. So people that want to donate can donate through Holos tax-free to support the scholarships for Vital students. So
I love
if anybody
that.
would like to donate, we can put the link in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that, Angie.
Yeah.
And thank you for your support. So I guess this is it now. I thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. I enjoyed learning about you both very, very much. And onwards. And I look forward to catching up with you along this wild ride. And many blessings for your work. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Angie. Thank you, Johanna.
Great to be with y'all today.
Great to be with you.
Absolutely. See y'all soon.